Welcome to Revenge by Eve. Grab a seat, it's time for today's story.
I stood in front of 50 family members at my cousin's wedding as my father told everyone I'd stolen from him. And I had the bank statements in my purse that proved he was the thief. Before this story goes any further, tell me, would you have exposed him right there or done what I did? And as you listen, comment where you're listening from. I read everyone. My father's name is Richard Castellano, and for the first 23 years of my life, I thought he was a good man. He wasn't warm exactly. He didn't hug often or say I love you without prompting. But he was steady, reliable, the kind of father who showed up to school events, who paid for things without complaint, who taught me how to change a tire and balance a checkbook. We lived in a mid-sized house in a suburb where everyone knew everyone. My father worked as a senior accountant at a regional firm. My mother was a nurse who worked night shifts at the hospital. They'd been married for 28 years, and while they weren't passionate, they seemed stable. I'm an only child, which meant I got all their attention, for better or worse. My father was particularly invested in my success. He pushed me academically, made sure I took AP classes, helped me apply to colleges, and constantly reminded me that I was capable of great things if I just worked hard enough. "You're a Castellano," he'd say. "We don't quit. We don't make excuses. We succeed." I believed him. I believed in the value of hard work, of integrity, of doing things the right way. My mother was gentler but also more distant. Her job exhausted her, and when she was home, she was usually sleeping or too tired to engage deeply. I learned early not to burden her with problems. She had enough to deal with, so my relationship was primarily with my father. We'd have dinner together most nights, just the two of us since Mom worked evenings. He'd ask about school, about my plans, about whether I was staying focused on my goals. "You're going to do something important," he'd tell me. "I can feel it. You're going to make this family proud." The pressure was immense, but I thought it came from love, from wanting the best for me. I graduated high school with honors, got into a good state university, and majored in psychology. My father insisted I live at home to save money, and I agreed. It made financial sense. During college, I worked part-time at a bookstore and saved everything I could. My father had always emphasized financial responsibility, and I took it seriously. By my junior year, I had about $8,000 saved. Money I planned to use for graduate school applications and maybe a post-graduation trip before starting my career. My father managed a joint checking account for me that he'd set up when I turned 18. "It's important you learn banking," he'd said, "but I'll keep an eye on it to make sure you're making smart choices." I didn't question it. He was an accountant. He knew about money, and I trusted him completely. Sunday dinners were a tradition in our extended family. Every week we'd rotate houses, my aunt's place, my uncle's, my cousin's. There were about 20 of us total, and these gatherings were loud, chaotic, and full of the kind of closeness that made me feel rooted. My father was respected in the family. People came to him for financial advice, for help with taxes, for guidance on investments. He was seen as the responsible one, the smart one, the one who had his life together. And I was proud to be his daughter. The first warning sign came during the summer after my junior year. I needed to pay my full tuition, and I'd been carefully saving to cover what my loans and scholarships didn't. I went to the bank to transfer money from my savings account, and the teller frowned at her screen. "I'm sorry, but this account only has $312 in it." My heart dropped. "That's not possible. There should be around 8,000. She checked again. "No, it shows multiple withdrawals over the past 6 months." "Withdrawals? I haven't withdrawn anything." She turned the screen toward me. "Large withdrawals. 500 here, 1,000 there, 1,500 another time, all made in person at the branch." "These all have authorization from the joint account holder," she explained. "Richard Castellano." My father. I stood there frozen, trying to make sense of it. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he'd moved the money for investment purposes. Maybe he was planning to surprise me. Maybe it was a banking error. I drove home and found him in his office working on his laptop. "Dad, can we talk?" He looked up, smiling. "Of course. What's up?" "I went to the bank today to check on my savings and most of the money is gone." His expression didn't change. "Oh, right. I've been meaning to talk to you about that. What happened to it?" "I borrowed it. For some unexpected expenses. I was going to pay you back before you needed it." "Borrowed it? Dad, that's my tuition money. And I said I'd pay you back. Don't be dramatic, Eve. It's still your money, it's just temporarily reallocated." "But you didn't ask me. You just took it." His face hardened slightly. "I'm the joint account holder. And frankly, I'm the one who taught you how to save that money in the first place. I think I've earned a little trust here. I do trust you, but I need that money for school. And you'll have it. I'm handling some investments that are going to pay off soon, and then everything will be back in your account. Can you please stop questioning me like I'm some kind of criminal?" The word stung. I wasn't questioning his character. I was just confused. "Okay," I said quietly. "But can you let me know before you do something like that again?" "Sure, now I'm busy. We'll talk later." I left his office feeling unsettled but trying to rationalize it. He was my father. He'd never let me down before. He said he'd pay it back, so he would. But the money didn't come back. Weeks passed. I started my senior year and tuition was due. I had to take out an additional student loan to cover the gap. When I mentioned this to my father, he waved it off. "Loans are fine. Builds your credit." "But you said you'd pay the money back." "I will. Just be patient." I tried to bring it up a few more times over the following months, and each time his responses became more irritated, more defensive. Why are you so obsessed with this? Do you think I'm trying to cheat you? You're being incredibly disrespectful." I started to feel like I was the problem, like I was being ungrateful, paranoid, selfish. So I stopped asking. The tension escalated during the spring semester of my senior year. I'd applied to graduate programs and been accepted to a good clinical psychology program. But I'd need to cover moving expenses, deposits, and living costs until my stipend kicked in. I'd been working extra shifts at the bookstore, and I opened a new savings account, one without my father's name on it. I didn't tell him about it. I just quietly saved. One evening, he called me into his office. "Your mother and I are concerned about you," he said. I was surprised. "Concerned about what?" "You've been distant lately. Secretive. Your mother noticed you're working a lot more but don't seem to have anything to show for it. I'm saving money for grad school. In an account we don't know about?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know about that?" "I'm your father. It's my job to know what's going on in your life." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "What are you hiding, Eve?" "I'm not hiding anything. I just wanted an account that was mine." "Because you don't trust me. Dad, you took $8,000 from me without asking." "I borrowed it. And I'm tired of you throwing that in my face like I committed some crime. I've done everything for you, paid for your entire childhood, your education, your expenses, and the one time I need a little help, you act like I'm some kind of thief." "I'm not saying that. That's exactly what you're saying. And honestly, it's hurtful. After everything I've done for you, this is the thanks I get." I felt tears building. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel that way." "Then close that other account and put your money back in the joint account where it belongs. We're a family. We don't keep secrets from each other." I didn't want to. Every instinct told me not to. But he was my father, and he was making me feel like the worst daughter in the world. So I did it. I closed the account and transferred the money. 3 weeks later, that money was gone too. Things got worse after graduation. I moved out to start graduate school in a city 2 hours away. I'd managed to scrape together enough for a deposit on a small apartment, and I was living on my stipend and whatever I could make from part-time work. My father started calling me regularly, asking for money. Just a few hundred to cover some bills. "Can you help with the car payment this month? Your mother's having a procedure done, and insurance isn't covering all of it." Every time I gave him what I could, because he was my father, and he'd raised me to believe that family helps family. But I was struggling. I was eating ramen and peanut butter, skipping meals, wearing the same threadbare clothes, and falling behind on my own bills because I kept sending him money. When I finally told him I couldn't help anymore, that I was barely surviving, he got angry. "So you're going to abandon us? That's who you are now?" "Dad, I'm not abandoning anyone. I just can't afford. Your mother and I sacrificed everything for you, and now that we need a little support, you turn your back on us. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Eve. But family shows up anyway. I guess you're not the person I thought you were." He hung up. I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, feeling like the most selfish person alive. And then I started getting calls from other family members. My aunt called. "Eve, your father mentioned you're refusing to help with your mother's medical bills. Is everything okay?" My cousin texted. "Heard you're going through a difficult phase. Hope you figure things out." Another uncle called. "Your dad's really hurt by how you've been treating him lately. Maybe you should reach out." I was confused. I wasn't refusing to help. I just didn't have money to give. And what was this about me treating him badly? I called my mother. "Mom, what's going on? Why is everyone calling me?" She sighed. "Your father's been talking to people. He's upset that you're not staying in touch, that you moved away and stopped helping with family expenses." "I moved away for school and I've been sending him money." "I know, honey, but you know how he is. He feels rejected, and when he feels rejected, he talks. What is he saying about me? Just that you've changed. That graduate school has made you selfish and distant, that you don't care about family anymore." My chest tightened. "That's not true. I know, but you know how people talk. Just maybe call him more. Smooth things over." I tried. I called him. I apologized for things I hadn't done wrong. I sent him the little money I had, but the narrative had been set. To the family, I was becoming the ungrateful daughter who'd abandoned her parents. The core betrayal happened 6 months later, at my cousin Sophia's wedding. It was a big family event. Everyone would be there. I'd been dreading it because I knew my father had been poisoning people against me, but I thought if I showed up and acted normal, maybe I could repair some of the damage. I was wrong. The wedding was beautiful. The ceremony was at a historic mansion, the reception in a decorated ballroom. I arrived alone wearing the nicest dress I owned, which wasn't very nice, and tried to blend in. My father saw me immediately. He didn't smile. He just nodded, cold and distant. My mother hugged me briefly, but seemed uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure whose side she was supposed to be on. Other family members greeted me politely, but without warmth. I felt like an outsider at my own family gathering. During the cocktail hour, I overheard my aunt talking to someone. "It's such a shame about Eve. Richard's heartbroken, after everything he did for her, and she just turned on him." I wanted to say something, to defend myself, but I didn't know how without causing a scene. Dinner was worse. I was seated at a table with distant relatives who barely spoke to me. I watched my father holding court at another table, laughing and charming, playing the role of the devoted family man. And then came the speeches. The best man spoke, the maid of honor spoke, and then my father stood up. He wasn't supposed to give a speech, he wasn't the father of the bride or groom, but no one stopped him as he walked to the microphone. "I just want to say a few words about family," he began. My stomach dropped. Family is everything. It's the foundation of who we are, and I've always believed that family takes care of each other, no matter what. He paused, his expression somber, which is why it breaks my heart when someone in the family forgets that. People were starting to look around, confused about where this was going. "My daughter Eve is here tonight." He gestured toward me, and suddenly 50 pairs of eyes turned in my direction, and I want everyone to know how disappointed I am in her. The room went silent. My face burned. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I raised her to value integrity, to be responsible, to care about family, but over the past year she's stolen from me, lied to us, and abandoned her mother and me when we needed her most. The word stolen hit me like a physical blow. I trusted her with access to family finances, and she took advantage of that trust. She took thousands of dollars and then cut off contact when I asked her to pay it back. I couldn't breathe. People were staring at me with shock, with disgust. I'm telling you all this because I don't want anyone else in this family to be hurt by her. She's not the person we thought she was. And until she makes this right, I can't have a relationship with her. He sat down. The room erupted in whispers. People were looking at me like I was a monster. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked out of the ballroom. I didn't run. I didn't cry where they could see. I just left. I made it to my car before the tears came, violent, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. He'd called me a thief, in front of everyone. He'd taken the money I'd saved, the money he'd stolen from me, and he'd turned it around to make me the villain. And everyone believed him. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to change. I sat in my car in that parking lot, and something inside me shifted. I'd spent a year making excuses for him, doubting myself, trying to be the good daughter, and he'd repaid that by destroying my reputation in front of my entire family. But he'd made a mistake. He'd lied publicly, which meant I could disprove it publicly. I drove home and spent the entire night gathering evidence. Every bank statement, every withdrawal record, every text message where he'd asked me for money. I organised it chronologically, clearly, undeniably. I also requested official statements from the bank showing the joint account activity, every withdrawal he'd made without my knowledge or permission. It took me 3 days to compile everything into a comprehensive document. And then I sent it to every single family member who'd been at that wedding. Not with a long explanation, not with emotional pleading. Just a simple message. My father publicly accused me of stealing from him. Here is documentation of every financial transaction between us for the past 2 years. Draw your own conclusions. And then I waited. The response started within hours. My aunt called first. Eve, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Then my cousin. This is insane. Why would he lie like this? Then my uncle. I never should have doubted you, your father. I don't even know what to say. One by one, family members reached out, apologizing, expressing shock, asking if I was okay. But more importantly, they started confronting my father. I wasn't there for those conversations, but I heard about them later. My father tried to deny it at first, then tried to justify it, then tried to claim the bank statements were manipulated. But you can't argue with documentation, with dates and amounts and clear evidence. My mother called me crying. I didn't know it was this bad. I knew he'd borrowed some money from you, but I didn't know he'd taken everything. And then to say you stole from him. Did you know he was going to give that speech? I asked. She was quiet. He told me he was going to clear the air about some family issues. I didn't know he was going to say those things about you. But you didn't stop him. I should have. I should have done a lot of things differently. I'm so sorry, Eve. Her apology felt hollow. She'd stood by while he destroyed me because it was easier than standing up to him. The family turned on my father quickly. People who'd respected him, who'd trusted him, now saw him clearly. He'd stolen from his own daughter and then publicly lied about it to cover his tracks. There was no coming back from that. 2 weeks after I sent the documentation, my father called me. Eve, we need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, let me explain. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. He looked terrible, thinner, older, with dark circles under his eyes. I made a mistake, he said immediately. Which mistake? Stealing from me or lying about it? Both. All of it. I'm sorry. Why did you do it? He rubbed his face. I got into some financial trouble. Bad investments, debt I couldn't handle. And I panicked. I took your money thinking I'd pay it back quickly, but things got worse. And then, when you started asking questions, I felt cornered. I said things I shouldn't have said. I let it spiral. You called me a thief in front of 50 people. I know. I was desperate. I thought if I made you the villain, no one would look too closely at what I'd done. And Mom? Did she know? He hesitated. She knew we were struggling, but I didn't tell her I was taking money from you. I told her you'd loaned it to me willingly. I stared at him. This man who'd raised me, who'd taught me about integrity and responsibility, and I didn't recognize him. Are you expecting me to forgive you? I'm expecting you to understand that I'm human, that I made mistakes under pressure, that I'm still your father. You stopped being my father when you chose to protect yourself instead of protecting me. His face crumpled. Please, Eve. I've lost everything. The family won't speak to me. Your mother's barely speaking to me. I've lost my reputation, my relationships. Don't make me lose you, too. You already lost me. You lost me the moment you stood up at that wedding and lied. I stood up to leave. Eve, wait. You wanted me to pay for your mistakes. Now you get to pay for them yourself. I walked out. The consequences rippled through the family for months. My father's reputation was destroyed. The man who'd been the respected financial advisor, the voice of reason, was now known as someone who'd steal from his own child. Several family members cut off contact with him entirely. Others maintained minimal, cold relationships out of obligation. My mother stayed with him, but their marriage was strained. She called me occasionally, trying to rebuild our relationship, and I allowed it slowly, uncarefully. She'd been complicit through inaction, but she was also a victim of his manipulation in her own way. I graduated with my master's degree. I started my career as a therapist. I built a life that was fully mine, untainted by his influence. And I realized something important. His betrayal had freed me. For years, I'd lived under the weight of his expectations, his approval, his judgment. I'd shaped myself around what he wanted me to be. When he destroyed that relationship publicly, he also severed those chains. I was free to be whoever I wanted, without the pressure of pleasing him. 3 years after the wedding, I'm 28 years old. I have a thriving therapy practice. I have friends who value me. I have a partner who respects me. I have a life built on honesty and reciprocity. My father sends me cards sometimes. Our birthday cards, holiday cards. They always include apologies, requests for forgiveness, hopes that we can reconcile. I don't respond, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. I've learned that some relationships aren't meant to be repaired. Some betrayals are too fundamental. He didn't just steal money from me. He stole my trust, my reputation, my sense of safety in my own family. And when I finally stood up for myself, he tried to destroy me rather than take responsibility. I've forgiven him in the sense that I no longer carry anger. But forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. It doesn't require giving him another chance to hurt me. My mother and I have a relationship now, though it's different from what it once was. We talk on the phone every few weeks. We meet for lunch sometimes. It's cordial but careful. And I'm okay with that. Some of my extended family have become closer to me than ever. They saw what happened, saw how I handled it, and respect me for standing up for myself. Others are still uncomfortable around me, as if my willingness to expose the truth makes me dangerous. I'm okay with that too. Because the most important thing I learned from all of this is that the truth will always come out. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not in the way you expect. But lies have weight. They collapse eventually under their own mass. And when they do, you want to be standing on solid ground. If you were in my place, what would you have done differently? And don't forget to tell me, where are you listening from right now? This is Revenge by Eve, and your voice matters here.
Thanks for watching Revenge by Eve. Until next time, relax and see you soon.